So welcome everyone. I
Right.
think maybe we can start. Namaste, Raviji.
Namaste, ma'am.
So let's start. We'll just pick up the threads from the last time where we were reading the chapter Release from Heart and Mind from the Synthesis of Yoga. Okay, so last time we had stopped at this one, 353, page 353, and this was a longer paragraph which we had done until here. This part we have done. So we have to start today from second lead. It becomes. Just to have an overlap, we'll just read the first part that we have done, and then we will continue with the second half that we had to do today. Yeah. So maybe starting from therefore the mental Purusha. Yeah. Would anyone want to read it aloud for us?
Therefore, the mental Purusha has to separate himself from association and self identification with this desire mind. He has to say, I am not this thing that struggles and suffers, grieves and rejoices, loves and hates, hopes and is baffled, is angry and afraid, and cheerful and depressed. A thing of vital moods and emotional passions. All these are merely workings and habits of Prakriti in the sensational and emotional mind. The mind then draws back from its emotions and becomes with these, as with the bodily movements and experiences, the observer or witness. There is again an inner cleavage. There is this emotional mind in which these moods and passions continue to occur according to the uh, habit of the modes of nature, and there is the observing mind which sees them, studies, and understands, but is detached from them. It observes them as if in a sort of action and play on a mental stage of personages other than itself. At first, with interest and a habit of relapse into identification, then with entire calm and finally attaining not only to calm but to the pure delight of its own silent existence. With a smile at their unreality as at the imagery, joys, and sorrows of a child who is playing and loses himself in the play.
Yes. Thank you, Raviji. So this is where we had stopped last, uh, and we were reflecting upon it. And Rupert Spira, the teacher, he also shares a lot about this kind of disentanglement to know that we are wrongly and uh, most of the time wrongly misidentifying ourselves with the thoughts, with the feelings, with the prakriti, with the modes of nature, as is said here. And then there is this presence of awareness, which is forever there, but it's like in the background. It doesn't aggressively shows itself in the front. But if we look at our experience, then we realize that all the time there is nothing but that consciousness, that awareness, which is in function. And because of that only, I am aware of the story in my head. I'm aware of the feelings. I'm aware of the body. So without that presence of awareness, nothing can be. But we don't know ourselves as awareness. Um, Rupert uses the term awareness for it, and other teachers like Mother Sri Aurobindo use consciousness for it also. But this, I feel that this is indicating many a times there is a confusion that no, mindfulness and awareness is something different than consciousness. But I think we can get lost there if we go into these, the word games. But to see that in us there is only one consciousness which is aware, which can become self-aware, and which notices, which is aware of things happening. And that is what is being referred here. To identify ourselves with that presence of awareness within. And as Sri Aurobindo was sharing, that in the beginning, for a long time, it happens that we fall back into again wrongly identifying ourselves with the thoughts, feelings, emotions, and then we have to disengage because this owing to our old habit, we keep on falling into that same groove, and again suffering comes, and then we have to wake ourselves up that I'm not my moods and I'm not my desires, I'm not my thoughts, feelings, sensations. I am the one in whose presence, the presence of awareness, all the play happens. So to identify ourselves again and again with this presence of awareness. So maybe we can take up the next part here today. From secondly, it becomes aware of itself. So anyone who would like to read it for us?
Secondly, it becomes aware of itself as master of the sanction, who, by his withdrawal of sanction, can make this play to cease. When the sanction is withdrawn, another significant phenomenon takes place. The emotional mind becomes normally calm and pure and free from these reactions. And even when they come, they no longer rise from within, but seem to fall on it as impressions from outside, to which its fibers are still able to respond. But this habit of response dies away, and the emotional mind is in time entirely liberated from the passions which it has renounced. Hope and fear, joy and grief, liking and disliking, attraction and repulsion, content and discontent, gladness and depression, horror and wrath, and fear and disgust, and shame and the passions of love and hatred fall away from the liberated psychic being.
Yeah, so again, this is very, very crucial, beautiful, and I mean, really like puts us back again and again on the track. So when we realize that I am the one who is fueling my own desires by constantly identifying with the desire mind, then I can step back. And then I see that if I don't give the sanction, actually this kind of drama cannot happen, the kind of drama that is happening in my mind, all the time. I am the one who is giving sanction by default. By default, I am the one who is allowing and fueling all the storylines and the emotions, all the entanglements. I am the one. There is nobody out there sitting somewhere else who is making this play happen. And that's why we see that, when it is said that the divine is present within us, that's where we gain empowerment, that it's because of me. I want something from that demand. I want something from that desire. And if I don't want anything from that, then the sanction is withdrawn. When you realize the futility of running after your little trivial demands. So, secondly, it becomes aware of itself as master of the sanction. So this will is operating from within. This is what we have to see. Okay? There is nobody else there, outer situations or people in the outer situations who are making me suffer or who are making this drama real for me. I am the one who is making this drama real for me. So knows itself aware of itself as a master of the sanction, who by his withdrawal of sanction can make this play to cease. When the sanction is withdrawn, another significant phenomenon takes place. Because all the time we are agitated, something that we want, something that we like is not happening. The life that I want to run by my dictates, my ideas and opinions, that's not happening. So we always remain agitated, restless, worried, anxious, hopeful, then disappointed. So when this sanction is taken back, that no, I don't want to engage in this superficial drama anymore, then the emotional mind becomes normally calm and pure and free from these reactions. And even when they come, they no longer rise from within, but seem to fall on it as impressions from outside to which its fibers are still able to respond. Why? Because it is a habit for me to respond. That's why it's like, something has been vibrating for ages, like centuries. It has been like this. Now it comes to an end, so it is still like, a little bit moving. Like what in physics we say, momentum. If something has a momentum, it can't just come to a stop immediately. It needs some time to fully come to a halt. So there may be a trigger from outside. The same person that used to agitate me, I thought that he is the one who is agitating me. But when I stop to get agitated, finding the new me within me, then I see that yes, the trigger comes. Something in me still moves, but I am not that. Some ripple is still moving. So that's where, he says that even when they come, they no longer rise from within, but seem to fall on it as impressions from outside to which its fibers are still able to respond. But this habit of response dies away. So as I stop fueling these non-beneficial kind of responses from within, they die away. And the old impressions, now they are not valid anymore. They don't move me. They don't have the power to move me. So this habit, it was just an old habit. This habit of response dies away, and the emotional mind is in time entirely liberated from the passions which it has renounced. So here comes our mukti, our liberation from our own bondages, which I was not aware that I am the one who is fueling these reactions in me again and again by giving them importance. If today I decide that no, I don't want to give it importance, there is no power that can make me react in the same way that I used to react. So that's where we have to realize that how powerful we are, that the sanction lies within us. It's not somewhere outside. Nobody else can puppet me. If I don't want to be puppeted around. So it's very empowering when we see that, now one can become the master of one being in one little sense. And all these worldly concerns, in Buddhism we call this worldly concerns. 8 worldly concerns, these dualities of hope and fear. So I'm hoping for something to happen, and wherever there is a hope, there has to be fear. Why? Because what if that thing doesn't happen? So there is a fear. What will happen if that doesn't unfold the way I have imagined it to be unfolding? So with hope comes the duality of fear. Then joy and grief. There are relationships in our life, things that give us joy. We think that they are giving us joy. Wherever anything is giving us joy, then the thing will be taken away. It will bring us grief. We can't help it. We can't help it. It's like that. Liking and disliking. If I have a very strong liking towards something, by default, I would have a strong disliking towards its opposite or something else. No? That's where we are bound all the time. And this is what they call the wheel of samsara. In Buddhism, they call this wheel of samsara. And in Hindi, Saint Kabir says, like, between the two rocky stones, the grains of wheat are getting crushed, and we are those grains of wheat. And the rocky stones are the stones of duality. All the time we are getting ground, powdered. So attraction and repulsion, again, wanting something, running away from something, not liking something, content, discontent, gladness, depression. Wherever there is gladness, if it's taken away, there is depression, horror and wrath, fear and disgust, and shame, and passions of love. So these are all, one can say, these are all things that we have to transcend. It is not that we always have to remain dipped in these dualities. Many a times we discount ourselves that, oh, after all, we are all human beings. Many a times we do that. So it's my birthright to be disgustful and birthright to be in horror and wrath and fear has to be part of my life. Now we know that, of course, they are part of our lives, but there is more than we can be than just all the time being in the, kind of these dualities and playing around with these. There is more that we can achieve and attain. Or rather, I should say, there is more that we can let go of so that we know who we truly are. Yeah, and there, when we transcend these limitations, there it's like it's a prison. All these limitations are a prison for the emotional mind. It's not its true nature. True nature, as Buddhism also talks about, true nature is love, oneness, interconnectedness, kindness, compassion, generosity. All these are our true nature. So when all these shells that are caging the emotional mind are shed, then the true emotional mind, which is these deep emotions of kindness, empathy, connection, interconnection, so all they can now get some space. And that's where one has the psychic being, liberated psychic being. Earlier, it is a caged psychic being. It is not able to fully express its divine qualities. But now it can, once the cage is removed. So although we find ourselves here in these dualities most of the time, but the thing is that we can't just keep on discounting ourselves that after all, I'm just a human being and I have to be here. So of course, so long as I want to be here, I will be here. But the moment I decide that, no, I want to transcend because this is not beneficial for either me or people around me, then we can transcend. That's where our true individuality comes to front, which is the psychic being. With deeper emotions, deeper feelings. It's not that we have to become like a stone, or numb, but we are able to feel even deeply, and not only for one person, but for more. So anything here, anyone? On this, I'm also again reminded of, here that they no longer arise from within, but seem to fall on it as impressions from outside to which its fibers are still able to respond. But this habit of response dies away. So I'm reminded of, again, I've shared a couple of times this movie called A Beautiful Mind, which is based on a true story of a mathematician who got Nobel Prize, John Nash. So, it's shown that how there are people he sees like they're hallucinatory people. They're not really there, but he sees them, and then he gets truly engaged in their lives and gets entangled in their whatever stories going on. But then only due to his willpower and a lot of effort and support from people around him, he's able to overcome that hallucination. Now he can see that no, they are not real. So just like how our storylines appear so real to us. We look at a person in our life and the whole storyline kind of gets created in front of our eyes, in the mind. And we believe it. We think that whatever I am thinking is the right thing. But slowly, as we understand that our thoughts are just impressions, they don't have that solidity, then it's hard to take that storyline so seriously. So it really appears like nothing but a passing cloud. So you are able to see that storyline brimming up because we are habituated to that storyline that may be there, but you don't stick to it very strongly. So that's where, some impressions may be there, some ripples may be there, but I'm able to step back from the storyline, knowing that I don't know. My thoughts, whatever they are sharing, my feelings, whatever they are telling me, that's not true. That's not true. Right? So then I can step back. And this has to be done till the end of our life and even further. Because as John Nash, towards the end of that movie, some professor asks him that, do you still see those ghosts after he has gotten the Nobel Prize and he's back to work? And they are not ghosts. I mean, for him, they were real people. So he looks around and he sees that, yes, they are sitting on a bench, those people. And he says that, yes, I still see them, but I choose to ignore them. So I think this is what has to be done in terms of our own individual stories in the head, whatever thoughts, feelings, past lives, or even past years keep on telling in the mind, that you will see the story, but you know that it's not real, it's just figment of my imagination. And just like I have figment of my imagination, there are other people out there which are around me. They also have stories in the head. They are also not true. So none of our stories are absolutely true. They are just impressions. And then we can expand our mind. Then a little bit of expansion can happen when we step back from rigidly holding on to our stories. Yeah. And slowly, if we don't give it importance, then he says this habit of response dies away. As we don't fuel and get engaged in the storyline, then the old habits of non-beneficial reactions, that dies away. And the emotional mind is, in time, entirely liberated from the passions which it has renounced. So I feel this is one of the most important paragraphs. Yeah. So if not anything, if there is anything, please do unmute and share. If not, we can maybe go ahead. Now, often we are wondering that if I don't have all this in life, which is hope and fear, joy and grief, liking, disliking, attraction, repulsion, content, discontent, shame, disgust, fear. I mean, this is what human life is. But then we are talking that no, so we can go ahead. So now that is falling away. All these shells are falling away from the liberated psychic being. Then what takes place in that emptiness, empty space that is created? That's what he is sharing here. So yeah, let us read on. Anyone who wants to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll read.
Okay.
What takes their place? It may be, if we will, an entire calm, silence, and indifference. But although this is a stage through which the soul has usually to pass, it is not the final aim we have placed before us. Therefore, the Purusha becomes also the master who wills and whose will it is to replace wrong by right enjoyment of the psychic existence. What he wills, nature executes. What was fabric stuff of desire and passion is turned into reality of pure, equal, and calmly intense love and joy and oneness. The real soul emerges and takes the place left vacant by the desire mind. The cleansed and emptied cup is filled with the wine of divine love and delight, and no longer with the sweet and bitter poison of passion. The passions, even the passion for good, misrepresent the divine nature. The passion of pity, with its impure elements of physical repulsion and emotional inability to bear the suffering of others, has to be rejected and replaced by the higher divine compassion, which sees, understands, accepts the burden of others, and is strong to help and heal, not with self will and revolt against the suffering in the world, and with ignorant accusation of the law of things and their source, but with light and knowledge, and as an instrument of the divine in its emergence. So, so too the love that desires and grasps and is troubled with joy and shaken with grief must be rejected for the equal, all embracing love that is free from these things and has no dependence upon circumstances and is not modified by the response or absence of response. So, we shall deal with all the movements of the soul, but of these things we shall speak farther when we consider the yoga of self perfection. It feels so nice, na? Like, ah, wow, wow, wow. But yeah, you wish you can reach that place. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Anything anyone wants to share?
I was wondering, I have read an hour ago a passage where Mother is talking about a sadhak who attains some sort of liberation in meditation, some sort of nirvana, he calls it. And it's interesting. I kind of understand that it is a possibility to withdraw from all these things emerging from the vital and stay in a calm with nothing emerging. But there is this other possibility which is what this yoga may be about, that is to not only have peace and calm and a withdrawal from these vital movements, but also to open to the descent of another force, or to make the psychic being come to the front. And
So I think that's parallelly happening. It's parallelly happening. So I feel that what he here is sharing, what we have been reading, you know, if I step back from a habit which has not been benefiting me, of course, an empty space is created because now there are no responses, So there is, for example, you can say there is calm in its place. I'm not fueling something which is not right and beneficial for me and others, right? And it is, I think that what Sri Aurobindo was sharing here is exactly what you are now putting it in words, that parallelly, as we step back from the wrong movements of the vital, it is impossible that the psychic or the true individuality does not take its place, which is what you are sharing. because psychic is the one which is open to the divine. And that's where, in that empty space of now, there is no poison that I am allowing in the being. Slowly in time, in that empty space, the deeper emotions of kindness, compassion, interconnectedness, generosity, all that has to come up. I mean, it is impossible that they don't come up in this yoga, what we were reading right now. Yeah. Yeah. That's what he has been sharing. That first you empty your cup. That's what we have been reading in this paragraph also. That if I keep discounting myself, that no, this is my life, what we just read. Hope and fear and joy and grief and like in this life, this is my life. I am human. This is how we discount ourselves. See, I am a human being and I want to live a normal human life. That's what we say as normal human life. And this is my life. This is what we say, right? But then as we have lived this life enough, we realize that no, there is something amiss. Something I'm missing, because if this is it, then why it doesn't satisfy me fully? And that's where there is a charm or a seeking for something different, a different kind of life. So he's sharing that this is there, hope and fear and all these dualities, they are there. That's where we start from. But this is as if we are caging the true emotions of love, true emotions of interconnectedness, true emotions of true empathy, compassion, kindness, generosity, which is all that we see with Mother and Sri Aurobindo's life. If we read about their life, that is what they were, embodiment of these things. But they were not, kind of what comes later. Now I think maybe we get to it later, that we have to create a space for these things to flower. And that's what we are doing. Living a little skillfully, knowing that whatever is unskillful, whatever is not beneficial, can I just step back from that? Do I have that mastery? That's what we have to create. At times it's very hard. All of us know, it's how hard it is to step back from our desires, demands, and people who are attached to us. So hard it is. But then it's my choice. Do I want to do that, or do I want to still live in this life totally entangled in what was just being shared? So I think it's a choice that one has to make at any point of time where we are ready, where something new can flower and blossom. So I don't think it is disengagement from life. It is just disengagement from the wrong movements of life, which may have served me so far, but now I see they are just creating more and more misery in my life. So it's just that. It's not that I stop interacting, I stop loving people. Like we read that article, essay from Nalini Khan Gupta, to love man. And he says that it's very easy maybe to love divine, but it's very hard to love a man in a truly detached, purified way. That's where our try must be. So I think that's what we are at. That's what I feel. It's not disengagement. Yeah.
I can see here various stages of evolution and development of the mind. And from first being aware of the thoughts, that is the first step. And once one is aware, then also being the understanding that one is the master, the sanctioner, that I can choose to have those thoughts or not to have those thoughts. And once I have that, attained that, I have that empowerment, then there is this calmness. But now what we have read, Sri Aurobindo is saying that is not enough. You have attained that, you've understood, you've been aware, you've been understood that mind is the witness, mind is the sanctioner. But once you have become calm, you have become silent in your mind, you've become indifferent. But just this indifference is not enough. That when the thoughts will come, the negative thoughts will come, I will become indifferent to them. Now he's saying that the next stage is that you will have control over your thoughts. So such a beautiful line, Monica. Therefore, the Purusha becomes also the master who wills, and whose will it is to replace wrong by the right, enjoyment of the what he wills, nature executes. So it is, I found this line so powerful. What he wills, nature executes. So it is, I mean, and that and it is, and when one has reached that stage, then it is the will of the divine. There can be nothing other than the divine. And then in the lower, the lower lines, there is this catch where, saying that put it down. Still on that page only. No, up. Sorry. Yeah. He's saying that often when we say good thoughts, there will be no negative thought. There will be only positive thoughts. And because automatically that is what I've become, a divine delight, So, but then Sri Aurobindo is also warning us, but by, that passion and all that, he's saying that if you have passion, don't think that don't think that you've reached there, because with passion there is that pity thing, and impure elements of physical repulsion and emotional, the second last line, and emotional inability to bear the suffering of others. Because often I've seen that whenever we see others going through a challenging phase or anything, any sick, any illness, any kind of thing, then our normal attitude is to, though it is nice, I don't know how to express it, that if we don't express our, I don't have a word, frankly, but often we are not able to bear the suffering of others. So when I, as a second person, not able to bear the suffering of the others, how can I be a support for that person? So I have to rise up to that level where I do empathize. It's not that I don't, but it is not with pity, where I am so disturbed myself that, and often we have seen people that they start others, they, especially close family members, that often our emotions, there's emotional outburst, and we can't help it because we are human beings. And when something happens which we are not even expecting, and sudden kind of an illness, a news of an illness or any kind of thing, then it says when one has reached over there, then one is in that state of equality where you are a real support. So I even found this line very beautiful, Monica. Yeah. And now you can give more insight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to add on? Yes. I think this is, first of all, it's like in front of us in such powerful words, full of consciousness and story of our life. That's what he's writing about. So anyway, let's move forward. So I think this for me is very, very important. Somehow it's coming out to me that as long as I want to be here, of course, there is a will within me which wants to be here, and I will be here, stuck in the duality and making life miserable for myself and others. But when I have lived this enough, when I know that so many years I have spent being stuck in these dualities, and I see that now I'm in such a phase. I think Priyanka was sharing that it's like a process. Of course, it is a process, and as we mature, as we evolve, we see that no, I can do better than this. I can do better than this. So what is that better he's then talking about? Then when we step back from the non-beneficial movements of our vital, emotional, desire mind, when we are stepping back, disengaging from them, that doesn't mean that we are disengaging from life. What takes their place? Because now there is an emptiness that is created. So what takes their place? It may be, if we will, an entire calm, silence, and indifference. At times we can see that maybe something like where Ramana Maharishi, again I'm just extrapolating, maybe completely wrong and out of the way, but it's like what Mother and Sri Aurobindo said, that if you want silence and calm, then you go to Ramana Maharishi. But if you want more than that, then you come here. And earlier in Savitri, we had read lines that where Ashupati was as if like he was launching himself like a rocket and he was crossing the domain of silence. So the domain of silence is very vast and impersonal, but yet there is something more further ahead as we continue to travel. So there is something more that we can access. And what is that? So it may be, if we will, an entire calm, silence, and indifference. That can be called, also related to what Joanne was sharing earlier, kind of a disengagement. But although this is a stage through which the soul has usually to pass, it is not the final aim we have placed before us. I think that makes it very, very clear what Joanne was commenting upon, that this is where integral yoga is taking. It is not stabilizing us in the area of vast, impersonal silence, which we see with Ramana Maharishi specifically. Of course, that is a stage to be reached, and of course, he says here, crossed. So he says, there are now, we have to understand that we are just reading about these things. We are not realizing these things. What it took to realize, for example, in case of Ramana Maharishi, we have no idea. So, I mean, let us be very grounded here that reading about these things is different, which we must do if we have the capacity to reflect over it so that we can make it a part of our life. But that doesn't mean that we have realized, because many a time it's like too much reading gives like, false interpretations and understandings that maybe I am here already. So we have to be very careful. So yeah, that is not the final aim. Therefore, the Purusha becomes also the master who wills and whose will it is to replace wrong by right enjoyment of the psychic existence. So now I realize that if I have the power to step back from the wrong movements of the vital, I also have the power with the same will, which is now in action. I also have the power to intend and create and recreate my life. That can be done. Because earlier I was creating a wrong sort of a life for me, bad kind of a life, which is misery for me and others. But now, stepping back from my misery and storyline, I can actually recreate. So this recreation, we see that it is like as if he's sharing that this is beyond the silence that we reach, silence and indifference, this recreation. So the Purusha becomes also the master who wills and whose will it is to replace wrong by right enjoyment of the psyche. So it's not that we have to stop enjoying, but we have to enjoy that which is not harmful for me and also not harmful for others. A non-sticky enjoyment. Letting it come, enjoying, letting it go. Okay, there are other things. What he wills, nature executes. So now there is a moment in time where Savitri, also in Savitri we read that earlier nature is in forefront. Nature is the dominant one, Prakriti. I am moved by Prakriti's movement. I'm a puppet of that. Now I realize that, oh my God, the power is in me. So there the Purusha takes the forefront, where earlier he had said that I would be the supernumerary, I will be on the backstage. You take the dominant seat. That's what is the pact between the two that we read in Savitri. Purusha and Prakriti, there was a pact. And the pact is that so long as we remain in too much ignorance and darkness, Prakriti leads the way. So through her movements, we learn. Through blows of my life, I ripen, evolve. Then slowly, we realize that I have the power. I don't have to be always puppeted around. And that's what we see with Mother Sri Aurobindo, that sitting in Pondicherry, sitting wherever he was regulating, manipulating, with forces, with powers, events in World War, in India's freedom struggle. That's where one gets the capacity to work on these events, even the outer situation. So what he wills, nature executes. But again, it's not like a black and white game here, because if we read their stories, we see that it's not just black and white. There is a lot of play of free will in each person's life, and that also has to be taken into account. So now the fabric is changing. Now he says, what was fabric stuff of desire and passion is turned into reality of pure, equal, and calmly intense love. So it's intense still. I think that's where the catch is, that we don't become indifferent and non-loving like a stone or numb. Still intense. But now we are not caught in the duality of hope and fear, always wanting a response for our love. That's where we are attached. And if that response doesn't come from outside, then we stop loving. So, calmly intense love. Reality of pure, equal, and calmly intense love and joy and oneness. Usually, whenever we talk about intensity, it's like agitation. Whenever we talk about I am very intense, means I'm agitated, I'm restless. But here he talks about a very different calm. Calmly intense love. Intense and calm at the same time. The real soul emerges and takes the place left vacant by the desired mind. So this vacancy we have to create. I think that's what our task is. Because if the room is full of the filth, where will the divine presence be installed? And if I want something now true in my life, something greater in my life, greater not in the sense that I am great, in the sense of, something purer in my life, then I have to create space. If there is a new furniture that has to come in our house, we create space for it by removing the old furniture. Very simple. So the real soul emerges and takes the place left vacant by the desire mind. I think this is in crux the matter, that task to be done, by all of us in our lives. The cleansed and beautiful imagery, again, the thing he writes, the cleansed and emptied cup is filled with the wine of divine love and delight, and no longer with sweet and bitter poison of passion. So this was my life earlier. I become very passionate and then I get very disappointed. And also bitter, because how come my passions were not fulfilled? So very bitter. So there is poison in that. There is bitterness in that. There is animosity there, hatred, bitterness. Now I have created space. I have removed the filth, purified myself, so that the true can take place. And it's also, I think we have to see that it's called wine of divine love. It's like, usually whenever we talk about wine, it's giving us some kind of joy, some delight. So it's not that it's like an indifferent, something like a stone happening to us. We have to see. The passions, even the passion for good, misrepresent the divine nature. I think this is what Priyanka was hinting at, that even when we are biased, that this is good and this is bad, that bias is a misrepresentation, because our categorical mind does not understand what is the proper and right place for each thing. So that's where comes equanimity. That Sri Aurobindo says that only in soul consciousness can we be truly, truly equanimous. Otherwise, we can forget about equanimity. We will always have biases of all sorts. So the passion, even the passion for good, misrepresent the divine nature, which is all encompassing. It takes everything in account. Like we see in, how Sri Aurobindo during the World War, he's supporting so-called people who are evil, in the eyes of Indian people, they are considered evil. But Sri Aurobindo knows the larger plan, so hence he's supporting those people because he knows what is to be done. The passion of pity, with its impure elements of physical repulsion and emotional inability to bear the suffering of others, has to be rejected and replaced by the higher divine compassion, which sees, understands, accepts the burden of others, and is strong to help and heal, not with self-will and revolt against the suffering in the world, and with ignorant accusation of law of things and their source, but with light and knowledge, and as the instrument of divine in its emergence. This is very clearly, we see this paragraph, in Jane Goodall's story. Very, very clear that how she never ever used aggression and aversion and repulsion as her instrument. I mean, maybe it came very naturally to her. I don't know, but it is very strongly, when I read her story, it was like very inspirational for me to see that on one hand she is able to take a stand because she's moved. She's moved that chimps have life and they have feelings and they have everything what is like human, but how we treat them and mistreat them when they are in laboratories or kept uh, so that they can serve human uh, kind of research. So there she was moved, but she did not excuse herself with aggression and violence and see, you are bad people and how dare you do that. This is how the chimps have to be treated, not like that. So we don't see her taking a path like that. We see her full of compassion and kindness, knowing that these are the people I have to change. And it is where my love has to be there, my compassion has to be there. So we see, for those of us who are interested, we see that in her story very beautifully. And another story that I was reading, like there is a story where the author is sharing about two friends. Now, one is a psychologist friend who has now kind of a burnout because he's just seen too many patients and worked too much heavily with patients, and now he just can't bear the suffering. It's like he can't listen to his patients at all. So much of burnout has happened. And on the other hand, she shares about a Nepali woman who was mountain climbing, and then she realized that there was an earthquake in Everest base camp once, and in that base camp, she was saved, but other people everywhere else, there was devastation by earthquake. So she decided that no, since I am safe, somehow it's my responsibility that I have to work and I have to offer myself to people who are in trouble. And she was able to do a lot of work in compassion and kindness, what was shared in the light and knowledge as instrument of divine. And she did not have a burnout, like she did not exhaust herself out because of the suffering of other people. So I think there is a very fine line of balance where we have to uh, see that where am I walking? Is it burning me out? And then pausing, slowing down for our own self. And because that again can become very, very toxic uh, to burn yourself out, because then you become totally incapable of serving others and benefiting others when you are not able to extend that benefit to your own self. So this has to be rejected. This is a wrong attitude. And this is what he's sharing here, that these are impure elements, emotional inability. This all has to be slowly transcended. Yeah. So you will be moved, but then you will not be suffering in others' suffering, because if you yourself begin to suffer, then there is no point that you can help. So I think this is only by practical experience that we can know that how much power these words have. I think that's the um work they are doing for us, that they are hinting us towards some truth. It's just a hint that they can provide. And also, since they are words of Mother Sri Aurobindo themselves, and as Mother says that our words are charged with consciousness. So if even if there is a bit of will somewhere that made this happen in my life, or if you consider me worthy, make me travel on this path, something will happen when we keep offering ourselves to the Mother more and more. But for us, intellectually, at least we can understand that wherever we are accusing other people for some situation, when we are, in this mental, emotional inability, we're not able to bear suffering of others, something is happening which we have to step back from. That's not our true nature. If we want to take the highest possible road. So I think this is also very important, and then we can take more reflections. The last bit, that how usually we love is always by grasping. If I love, even in movies, it's shown that if you love, you grasp. That's what love is. It's very clear in the movies, Bollywood, Hollywood, everywhere. Most of the movies, not all. So too, the love that desires and grasps and is troubled with joy and shaken with grief must be rejected for the equal, all-embracing love that is free from these things and has no dependence upon circumstances. What are the circumstances? That I will only be loving if I get a response back in love. And then we close our heart. That if I'm not getting the desired response, I close my heart. So that has to be transcended, that kind of a love that desires and grasps, has no dependence upon circumstances and is not modified by response or absence of response. How beautiful. It's not modified either by response or by absence of response. When can that happen? When we are doing our highest best possible. Only then. That whether you get the desired response or not from outside, you are just being the best you can offer. Only then you will not be modified by response. Because if I'm modifying myself by response, it means I could have done better. Or if I am modifying myself by absence of response, it means I would gauge, calculate, oh, maybe I have done too much. I stepping back. So that calculative mind comes in action. I think this is very beautiful again. And this again connects me with Nalini Das' essay on To Love a Man. That how it is possible for us, if we try to not to move away from humanity, but to engage, keep engaging in whatever matters we engage, and in a loving way, not in a numbed, indifferent way. That since I've been hurt in love, I would not be opening my heart. That's not our highest possibility. Yeah. So we shall deal with all the movements of the soul, but of these things we shall speak further when we consider the yoga of self-perfection. So that will come in a different chapter. Okay, so all right, so we can take a few reflections on this passage. Okay. So I think if there are not any reflections, then maybe why not take a little bit more, maybe this much, then we can end today. Yeah. Would anyone want to read it out?
As with action and inaction, so it is with this dual possibility of indifference and calm on the one side, and active joy and love on the other. Equality, not indifference, is the basis. Equal endurance, impartial indifference, calm, submission to the causes of joy and grief, without any reaction of either grief or joy, are the preparation and negative basis of equality. But equality is not fulfilled till it takes its positive form of love and delight. The sense mind must find the equal rasa of all the beautiful, the heart, the equal love and ananda for all, the psychic prana, the enjoyment of this ras, love and ananda. This, however, is the positive perfection that comes by liberation. Our first object on the path of knowledge is rather the liberation that comes by detachment from the desire mind and by the renunciation of its passions.
Yeah, any thoughts?
Monica, would you please clear this line? Either grief or joy are the preparation and negative basis of equality.
Okay. So as with action and inaction, so it is with this dual possibility of indifference and calm on the one side. So, that's how we know life. Either we are active or we are inactive, right? So he's sharing, so it is with the dual possibility that either we are indifferent and calm, that is one side, or the other side is active joy and love. We don't know anything apart from this. That's what I see. Again, we can add more reflections later. Equality, not indifference, is the basis. Equal endurance, impartial indifference. Just a second. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Equal endurance, impartial indifference, calm submission to the causes of joy and grief without any reaction of grief, either grief or joy, are the preparation, and you want to understand this negative basis of equality. Now, what's happening, what I understand here is that usually how we are living is that we have images in our mind. If this happens, very good, very good, very good, desirable. And if that doesn't happen, no, no, not good, not good, not good. And we grieve and there is no joy. And so either we are joyful when it's according to my image, or I'm in grief when it's not according to my image. Now, the very fact that now I am stepping back from my images and feelings creates kind of a what means by negative is it's like it creates an emptiness, right? So why would it create the emptiness? Because I don't know. Whatever I am become so joyful at, I'm becoming so joyful at something. That very thing we have seen in our life how that can become the source of my pain after some years. So we don't know the larger picture. Whatever I'm getting too excited at right now, too hopeful for right now, I don't know whether that's true or not. So knowing that this is all the movement of vital mind, the desire mind, And it is because of these past impressions that I become either too agitated or too kind of in grief or disappointed. I begin to step back from these categorical responses, knowing that there is a larger picture. I really don't know what is, that it's more than the appearance that it shows itself. So there is a negative vacancy created. It's like equality, that okay, this is happening, let us take it. Acha, something negative so-called socially is happening. Okay, let us take it forward. So there is an equality there. Why would there be an equality? Because I know that I don't know.
Yes. I know that I don't know.
I know that there is a larger picture to which I have no clue. What is the, I have no clue what is the larger picture. And hence, too much joy at something or too much grief at something, I won't be able to do because I don't know the larger picture. Larger picture, everything has a right place. So there comes this equality. And I think why he's sharing that it's a negative basis, because it's as if it's like clearing space. It's decluttering. So we say it's like a negative basis. That's what is appearing to me. Like how we in Advaita, we do neti. I'm not the thought, I'm not the feeling. So by negation, you are creating space for something different than you earlier used to think that you are, by negation. That's why I feel that that's why he uses a negative basis. But then he again accentuates further on it, he elaborates further that, but equality is not fulfilled. Abhi kaam pura nahi hua, the thing is not settled here. So we have to continue. But equality is not fulfilled till it takes its positive form of love and delight. Now, this is very, very important. This is what in Buddhism, many a time we come across that first we step back and, from our thoughts and phenomena that is there, kind of in a nothingness. And then so that the positive qualities of the true heart can come forward, which are the positive qualities are kindness, compassion, generosity, interconnectedness. So first we have to create that space, which was earlier full of this rubbish that is not helpful. Now in that space, these deeper qualities are taken, they take place. So, but equality is not fulfilled till it takes its positive form of love and delight. So it's not that we have to become stone-like. If we are equal and equanimous to everything, we don't become numb. We develop these deeper feelings or emotions. I don't know if we can even call them emotions, but deeper something which we can sense, love, delight, joy in its pure and unadulterated form. Right now, we know only its adulterated form. That very soon, joy becomes pain. Joy becomes grief. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone has more points here. Please share.
I found this very, very beautiful and very, very powerful, Monica, that Sri Aurobindo is first telling us to be indifferent, calm, all that, but then he's also selling that equal endurance, impartial indifference, calm submission to the causes of joy and grief without any reaction of either grief or joy are the preparation and negative basis of equality. So he's saying that this kind of attitude of impartiality towards anything, this kind of attitude of enduring anything, joy or grief or whatever, and being calm towards joy or grief is a preparation. That means that initially, this is what, when we walking this path, initially, that's what I understand, that initially this is what will happen, that there would be an indifference. But this is the negative basis of equality. Though we are trying to be equal towards joy and grief, and outwardly we might appear to other people as very stone-hearted, but people who have actually uh, have truly transformed. Haven't we sometimes met people who are siddhas or yogis, and what a delight to even look at them. What it seems as if love is oozing out of them. So he says that initially, if this kind of indifference would come as a preparation, but that is the negative basis of equality, because this in the journey forward should take the place of love and delight. That is the positive thing. Which means when our sense mind, when through our senses, when my eyes are looking at anything, or my hearing anything, or my all these, the sense organs, through that when I'm experiencing the world, there should be just everything but automatically it will appear all beautiful. And from my heart, it will be just love and ananda oozing out. And same thing, my emotions will be psychic prana and enjoyment of this rasa, love and ananda. This, however, this is what I understand, that automatically when we have transcended that indifferent stage, there would be a stage where that indifference will be occupied by love and delight, because love in its essence is divine. So divine, I feel, is equal to love. So, and I have seen sometimes, people forget about the siddhas, but people sometimes who are, what word should I, sometimes you come across people and you feel so good to be in their presence. You feel so nice to be in their presence. So there's something oozing out of them. And what about the people who have reached that such heights? So automatically, there is so much love that, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So I think this is very nice, again, just even to read theoretically, for us to know that, I think as was shared earlier, that these are necessary steps. Now, if I really want some love and delight in life, I can't bypass these steps. First, I have to create an empty cup. So I can just not be, all the time what you were reading earlier. This cannot be in the cup while I demand a new life. I have to keep stepping back vigilantly, with lots of vigilance, alertness from all these wrong movements, so that the vacancy is created, and then, the positive can take its place. So I think this is very important, because often we want shortcuts. How can I just have bliss and delight and ananda immediately? But there are no shortcuts. The cuts are long, and there are lots of up and down and to and fro. Yeah. Maybe this much, and then we can take up last comments and end. The sense mind, now again, not to shun the senses, not to numb the senses. The sense mind must find the equal rasa of the all beautiful, the heart, the equal love and ananda for all. So all the things that are beautiful in life, I mean, we don't have to numb ourselves to those. there is beauty in life, there is delight in life. Each and every grain, that we come across is full of beauty. So we can, in fact, he says that it must find the equal rasa of all beautiful. Everywhere the divine has manifested itself in beauty. Little insects, grains, grass, flowers, everywhere we see clouds, sky, different colors changing in the sky, the wind. So we have to be sensitive to that rasa. He says, one must find the equal rasa of all beautiful. The heart, again, we don't have to close our heart. Many a times, being spiritual, we think that no, I don't have to open my heart. So he says, the heart, the equal love and ananda for all. So usually we are always constricting ourselves to a couple of people in my life, and that's it. That rest of all the people are strangers to me. I don't open my heart to anybody else. So he's saying equal love and ananda for all. The psychic prana, the enjoyment of this rasa, love and ananda. So sorry, this was all in continuation. Let me read again. The sense mind must find the equal rasa of the all beautiful. The heart, the equal love and ananda for all. And psychic prana, the enjoyment of this rasa, love and ananda. So we don't have to shun enjoyment. It's just that we now shift our dimension for enjoyment. What we are doing here is enjoying these words. This is still enjoyment. We are taking delight and rasa in these words. We are taking delight in maybe listening to each other, reflecting together. That's also delight. This, however, is the positive perfection that comes by liberation. So if this is what we want, then he's sharing that this is the positive perfection that comes first by liberation, what he was sharing earlier. Our first object on the path of knowledge is rather the liberation that comes by detachment from the desire mind and by renunciation of its passion. Very, very clear, very clear. If we want delight, love, and ananda in life, I cannot remain in the dirt and mire of this, because this is how my cup remains full of rubbish. I have to empty it so that there is a space created. So psychic being can come forward, can get liberated. So I think this is the cage one can see. This is the cage of the psychic being. All these dualities in which we live, which we consider as my normal human self. Hope and fear, joy and grief, like and dislike, attraction and repulsion, content, discontent, gladness, depression, horror, wrath, fear, disgust, shame, passions of love, hatred. It's like we can maybe make a photo, sketch it, that my true self and it's caged in all this. And slowly as I step back, the true self can become liberated. I mean, so beautiful, really. There must be more, good words in our vocabulary, because beautiful sometimes, it doesn't suffice. Yeah.
As you rightly said, that we are enjoying taking rasa of these words.
Yeah. Yeah. So anybody, any last comments before we end? Next time we can pick up the thread from page 354. Maybe start from here. Okay. So if not anything, just taking one last moment in silence, sharing the delight that we had, sharing the delight of reading these words, sharing the merit of these reflections to all the sentient beings. May we all have peace at heart in joy and progress in life.